Welcome to North Fulton Serves, a podcast where we share stories about people making a difference in our community and learn about how we can get more involved. I'm your host, Jason Binder, and with me today is Council Member Donald Mitchell with the City of Alpharetta. Welcome, Donald.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So today, I want to discuss a little bit about arts in Alpharetta and how that's involved and your involvement on that and where we were in the past and how we're moving towards the future with it.
Awesome. That sounds good. Arts Alpharetta really started about 10 years ago. The first rendition of it was about 10 years ago on the back of someone's deck here in Alpharetta. And what we did was try to assemble some arts-minded people that were just really excited about the arts and wanted to see more of it here in North Fulton and Alpharetta as a whole. And so, through groups are very difficult to get going and to get started, but it's taken a long while. But now we have a very robust Arts Alpharetta, and it's just really flourishing now, and it's just been a good thing to see things transpire throughout the city concerning the arts.
So you said all the way back 10 years ago.
Yeah.
On someone's deck.
Yes.
Does that someone have a name?
Yes, but I'd rather not. I don't want to incriminate anyone.
Well, that's good. That's kind of you. Well, I've always appreciated it because you, even before council and you've been known to really gather community support and engagement for things that people would love to see and get passionate about. So it's not just relying on the city to do it, but bringing people that would like to get it done and roll up their sleeves. So we have the Alpharetta Arts Street Fest coming up later in May, right? And so that's one thing. Was that one of the beginning projects that they had just to get more into arts, or what were some of the things 10 years ago that were implemented?
That was one of the first things. And in fact, Kim Dobson, who's Kim Zane now, she was really, she had the Art Street Fest and arts programming going as far as an art festival. But, that's a one-day occurrence or a one-weekend occurrence. And then the rest of the year, all we had going was what was in the basement of our courts building over on the edge of Crabapple, which was a very difficult area to get folks, especially if you lived on the other side of the city, like over in Windward or Webb Bridge. It was hard, or Kimball Bridge. It was hard to get folks over there if they had a 5 o'clock arts meeting and then their other child had a baseball game or something like that. So arts really was not accessible to even all of our citizens, much less a lot of North Fulton.
And then that came about when Fulton County was going to move their library towards downtown Alpharetta and left the library available.
Correct. And that was kind of a precarious time on council. That was it. Half the council didn't see the real need in it. And at the time, when you look at the stats, nobody was going to the classes. But when you delved into it and you figured out the reasons they weren't attending the classes, because they weren't accessible and it was very difficult, and they were always in the afternoon for the most part. And so it really didn't justify why we need a larger and bigger arts center. But when you did delve into it and you found out the reasons why, and then we began getting people, when we started talking about the arts and making it more public, people were coming out of the woodwork to say, hey, I'd like to take this class, or I'd like for this to be served, or I'd like to be able to get my children to this program, and to have programs for them to, and then folks with or without children, they were like, I'd love to take some kind of dance class, or and so it grew from there kind of organically in the community support. And so when there was much discussion at the time about, let's just raise the building and turn it into a just a passive garden or passive park, and that just, it personally flew all over me, because I knew what the great need was to have an art center there, and it would be central to all of Alpharetta. And I knew it would take a lot of money to get it done and to do it well, because the library had basically been ignored as far as infrastructure needs and things like that. And so it was an undertaking, but a gradual one, and it finally got the full support of council when enough people came out and voicing their concern about it. We had more people show up for the Arts Center gatherings than any other event we had had in the city's history in recent years at the time.
In the city's history
In the city's
within
history,
recent
way back to
years.
1858, I'm
Within
sure.
recent years.
Within recent years.
But I give you a hard time, but I had to applaud you. I came into council, I think, right at the tail end of when you were bringing it on. And I've always felt that the Arts Center was a need.
Yeah,
that
you got behind
there
it.
was, because we have the availability, we have the resources to really help improve the quality of life of individuals. And there is a need there, and you were seeing it around other cities about having centers for arts, performing arts, and anything from painting to sculptures and that sort of thing. And really enjoyed seeing that. And I was taking a look at the recreation program guide, and then
Yes.
seeing how many classes are available this summer, and then to the spectrum of people from children, preschool to elementary school age to teens, adults, and seniors, and the spectrum of digital arts and performing arts in there. So where do you see that evolving as far as programming over the next couple of years?
Well, as far as digital arts, I know there's a real strong desire to get 3D modeling programming that would allow you to do images based off of a flat, image, and then turn it into a 3D model of whatever. And so we want to explore that. We also want to explore movie production on a smaller scale, and also work with our local high schools and get them involved with the arts. And I know the new principal of the STEM school has expressed interest in having the Arts Center bring art to the new STEM school. And so there'll be a year of programming for that and things like that. But I see it continuing to grow, and I always knew in the back of my mind that once we become more visible, and once we have a location that can handle the growth, that it would grow exponentially, and it really has, and it continues to. And they've had some really good shows, and there's a show coming up right now that has some noted artists in it that are featured in museums across America. And so it's more of a folk art show, but a lot of diverse artists and sculptors who will be represented there at our local art center. For the longest time, this is such a dream realized, because we saw, even in Sandy Springs, they had an art center that was sponsored by Fulton County. Johns Creek had one that was sponsored by Fulton County, but yet we were like a desert as far as the arts. We had Verizon, and that brought performance art, but as far as local art that our citizens could grasp and become a part of, most of the attention was going toward the athletic program and things like that. And when you looked at the budget, it was less than 1% that we, even as a city, was spending on the arts. So we've tried to get that more in line, and we've also tried. Right now, the battle is to win Fulton County over, and as far as the Art and Cultural Commission, and get them to start giving money back to our city that we've not had in over 15 to 20 years. And I personally think it's high time that we got a lot of attention and a lot of funding from Fulton County, instead of, I would estimate 90% of the arts funding from Fulton County stays within the Atlanta metro area and doesn't make it to the other 15 cities, 16 cities.
Well, it's good. I know we recently received a grant from them, and so it's starting to trickle in and hopefully expand more. And our staff's been doing a good job of working with the county to make sure there's more focus and showing that there's a need here as well.
I think Bob Ellis, our Fulton County Commissioner, and Liz Hausman, they've been working on trying to get more funding for the arts up in North Fulton as well. And so we pay a good bit of the tax base, and so it's only fair that it would be given out proportionally.
All right, so to ease this up a little bit,
Okay.
Donald Mitchell, the artist. What's your art? What do you like to do?
Well, I'm an interior designer by trade, and so for me, I love photography personally, and I also love collecting art.
Are you a photographer?
I rarely share it, but yes. when I get time. For some reason, I don't know if you can relate, but the city council thing takes a lot of your personal time.
Man, between council and family, and we're
Yeah.
both very similar on that. So it does take a lot of time, but it's good. But what I get from you is normally the pictures from the phones of here's what we need to implement as far as pedestrian safety or sculptures or that. So I don't know if I consider that photography, but
No, those are generally not edited very well.
but
But
well, I didn't know that. That's neat though.
yeah, I love photography. But for me, there's a lot of joy in just enjoying seeing other people create, and whether that's through sculpture or pottery, through painting, a number of different mediums. It's just it's really nice seeing our community gather together around something that they create and share their personal voyage on how they created this piece. It brings people together and in a way that's nonpartisan. It's just a great thing for a community to have a vibrant art scene.
I think we're probably very similar on that, where we enjoy advocating for people because we know that they're passionate about it and that they'll help bring it to light. And so one of the other things with the arts project that we've seen over the years is the sculptures program
Yeah.
that have gone through downtown and now have gone to other parks that we have or public places throughout Alpharetta. So
Yeah.
when did that start? And
That started with the previous administration of the Arts Council, and I'm not going to start naming names because I'll surely miss someone. But the Arts Alpharetta group started that as far as a temporary art installation through the Miscellany project, and so it's on to its second rendition.
what is that called now?
Miscellany was the first one, and that
What's the
contains
new-
all the
What's
sculptures.
the new name?
Yeah, I'm on the air, and that's a difficult name. It's something about gathering art, something like that, but I cannot pronounce.
We got to get a name I can pronounce. Can we work on that at least?
Yes,
Okay.
Gathera or something
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
it's Latin, and I
Yeah.
didn't do too well in Latin
Yeah.
in middle school. But
Miscellany I could grasp.
there we go.
It
So I
was-
didn't mean to devolve, but
Yeah.
So it started with Miscellany, and it was
Yeah.
a temporary art sculpture.
And that
exhibit.
was actually curated by the modern art curator from the High Museum. And this next upcoming series is curated by the lady who is she's in charge of Chucker Farms, their sculpture garden.
Okay.
So I'm looking forward to seeing what she selects. I'm also one thing I've been encouraging them to do is let's get back to the roots of how our arts programming started, and that was through community involvement. And so I'd like to see that art is, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and if art is effective, it's gonna produce some kind of reaction. You may love it, or you may hate it, or you may think it has too much color or not enough. You may want earth tones, like we've seen in one of our neighborhoods. They wanted something that was just earth tone and blended in with the environment. As far as a mural or wall art, but the whole thing is, I believe with all of my heart, and I think it's kind of shown itself in the way the lady that did the Philadelphia Art Murals project. She went into as she started out in California, and then she was relocated to Philadelphia. But her whole focus was, what does the community want to see in this mural, and what do you want to see? What's the images you want to see? What does that art conjure up for you as far as how does it make you feel and things like that? And all those are important if you're going to have a successful art program. You've got to reach the heart of the community, and if you want them to show ownership, they've got to be a part of the process of getting that art.
How do you do that to get people that are spectators of art, or not really involved, but they enjoy when they see it and pass it by? How do you get them involved in the decision making process?
I think it's easy. I think it's like we do with every project within our city that we've done within the last 10 years. We've tried to have open dialogue about what the city center is going to look like. Come out and give us your ideas. Email us. Let us know what you're thinking as far as what you would like to see, or give us some suggestions of what you've seen in other successful areas, and just come and like last night we had one as we were trying to re-envision North Point Mall. We had an open dialogue session where people could just comment, I like it, I don't like it, here's what I would change, here's some good ideas for you, or this is great. You never know what you're going to get, and that's the fear, I think, the reason
Yes.
why a lot of people don't have that. But without that, you don't get buy-in.
Now I think you'll be happy. So we were both there,
Yeah.
and Mayor Gilman and Councilmember Richard was there with us, and
Yeah.
I brought Cecilia, my oldest, and you'll be happy to know she says, "I love the plan. It needs more art and it needs more parks." So
I've always
she
loved her. Always.
so I was very happy that she picked both our sides on that one. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that was good. And I do think we found in Avalon, in the placemaking, that arts and green space help add more people towards that environment. And I think
Yeah.
we're seeing that even more in the downtown area, where we're having art sculptures everywhere throughout our parks and throughout downtown, asking developers, and not just, I don't know how you word it, but just the commercial art that's going to not affect anybody. So it's just there, but it doesn't
Yeah.
really get a reaction. But I think some very good pieces.
Yeah.
And North Point, I think that's going to be the key even more through placemaking, is to try to get more businesses there to, evolve that more to make it a high energy place. And
Yeah.
art's going to have a big part of that. And I'm glad they did that with that placemaking.
Yeah, I think they called it,
document.
the one of the planners called it a moment of inspiration, and I really like that because when you happen up on this big installation of art, a sculpture or an area that's art, but the kids can jump up and play on it and things like that, it does create those moments of ownership for the community. Hey, I love this place. This is where I like to hang out, and those kind of things help to create a city. And to me, art is one of those incredible ways that you can differentiate your city from any other city around you. And because especially if you get original art from original artists who are in the area or abroad, whatever, it creates that kind of environment that you can show ownership to, and that you can feel a special connection to. Imagine Florence, Italy without art. It would just be any other city in Italy, but because it has David, because it has the Uffizi, it has incredible resources. But even other cities like Taos, New Mexico, I was just there recently, and it has all this organic art and galleries, and just people are creating art in a natural kind of way, and people gravitate toward that city unlike any other town in New Mexico. That small little town has drawn people from all over the world and continues to do it, and it's through art.
Do you think with the art growing out that we can expand it even more into other areas of Alpharetta? It seems like downtown's grown quite a bit, and you're right, it's been deserted for some time.
Yeah.
But expanding that out to, say, the YMCA Community Center, to our parks on the east side, west side, how do you see that expansion so that all residents are able to have that within their 1 mile radius?
Yeah,
or 2 mile radius?
I literally, I would like all of Alpharetta to be an art destination. That's ultimately because I think people will come and they'll experience and they'll get to see art from artists from all over the country and all over the world that have created this sculpture or this mural. And if we can do that, it will not only help our local economy, it will, but we've got to get community buy-in. And one thing we're doing as a city on new construction projects like at Windward Mills, we're asking them to furnish original art, and they've got a lighthouse in the middle of one of the roundabouts there now. So we're trying to get the developers to pay for the art, large pieces of art, as they build their new project. So we're asking for it that way, but we also want to have a public-private connection to art and creating art throughout the city that will create something unique and different.
How do you work on the balance? I'm glad that when we have development projects that we ask the developers to buy in on art, but saying, okay, you have to have an art piece there just to make sure that it's not checking the box, or just that it's a bland piece of artwork. how do you work that balance to say, okay, this is part of the requirement, but we're also expecting something within our expectations of what good art would be?
Right. And good art is one of those things that you need a quotation mark around. Define good art. You know, it's such an individual.
Well, to your point though, on
Yeah.
art where it should have a reaction, and
Right.
so I think a lot of times in commercial areas, you want to make sure you don't have too much negative reaction, so they go err on the safe side that,
Yeah.
oh, that's nice, but
Or the opposite, where it doesn't err on the bland side, where you could have that anywhere. You know.
yeah, exactly.
I think what I'd like to see is where we eventually get to the point where instead of saying we want an original piece of art that's at least 10 to 12 feet tall and a certain width to fill that area, and it has to be original. We will get them to the point of when they bring the project proposal before council, that art is included with that, so that we can get community feedback on it at that time, not after the fact.
You want to add the actual art exhibit as part of the development package?
Yes, I would like to. I think that a way we can get community feedback,
Yeah.
and they can get feedback from council, who represents every area of the community. So only in the sense that it would honor our community by allowing them an opportunity to comment on it.
So moving forward, what's the greatest need that through adding more artwork or adding another kind of a program in there? What's the greatest need as far as arts for Alpharetta?
Yeah, I see the greatest need is continuing to bring focus to it, and continuing to get community buy-in. There are areas, and you mentioned downtown has a lot of sculpture, but there's really no murals. One area I'd like to see get murals that wouldn't be offensive from Main Street, or it wouldn't draw a lot of, is behind where we had the food truck alley, behind those buildings. Those are perfect opportunities for really good mural artists to come in and create.
Where the city parking lot is, that kind of area? Or?
Right. It's kind of, I'm calling
I
it
get nervous now.
Alpharetta's
Anytime you talk
backyard.
about murals, it's just you never know what's going to happen.
Alpharetta's backyard. That's where people love to hang out for the festivals and music and things like that. So that's a great opportunity to focus on that side of downtown, which has not gotten as much attention lately because of city centers starting place there.
Yeah.
But that would be a good way for us to do that, and also continuing to add the art like we're doing at North Point, like Windward, new construction projects there, where if they don't want to add it to their campus or their project, they could add it to one of the greenways or the Alpha Loop, and also installing art as a part of the Alpha Loop.
That would be nice. I guess we took a little bit of a tour after the meeting at City Hall last night, and did a tour of Alpha Loop, and really wanted to take my 8-year-old there just to see from her eyes what she thought of it, and she
Yeah.
really liked it. But it was a journey, and you're right, because you got nature there on one side, you have artwork within the murals, you can see that, and even the concept, the having such attention to detail, like the bike racks,
Yeah.
and then so where everything just is kind of melded together, where it's just a peaceful existence, and art and nature and exercising, just getting out there, is all one. So
Exactly.
I think that would be great to add it to the Greenway within Windward, in that area, to have that.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice experience, not just about exercising nature, but putting in artwork there along the way to enjoy.
Yeah. I think that one of the greatest needs that I'd like to see is we have a lot of folks who could donate a sculpture of their choice to the city, or buy in, or help to contribute toward some art. And so that's probably the greatest need, is for folks to step up and say, hey, I want to be a part of this.
So do you consider the Nutcrackers as sculptures?
I do.
You do?
They're all originally made. They're all originally designed, and yeah, and the community has been buying those, and we could have 100 next Christmas if we would go ahead and bite the bullet.
I always liked ribbon on it, but it was another
Yeah.
one that it was just way out there.
I caught a lot of
and
flack for
You
that.
well, we enjoy giving you flack,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's all right.
part of it's sport, which we do to each other. But it was neat to see how people bought in on it and wanted to add to it. So talk, maybe not everyone understands about the Nutcrackers, but
Yeah.
what's that program?
People are like, why Nutcrackers? And to me, it's one of those
We were all
holiday.
thinking, why Nutcrackers? But
It's one of those holiday things where everybody loves a Nutcracker. It's not affiliated with any religious group, but yet it's something that to me the real selling point is when you see kids and they're walking up and it's a 6-foot Nutcracker and they're just gazing into the eye of the Nutcracker. It's to me that's a magical moment, and I love it. The more of them we can add, and pizza Nutcrackers, a pizza maker, a painter, or whatever, as that continues to grow, that will be a destination point for the city during the holidays.
Now, how many were purchased in that first run last year?
The first run was 13.
Okay.
And so we're trying to add them now. The Alpharetta Chamber of Commerce is getting on board, and they're going to help recruit new donors. And
Okay.
so they will be letting us know how many are coming this next year.
How many do you think?
I would think we could get easily at least that. We've already had, even in the first year, our main problem was production of them in time. And so it's a small family in Ohio that started it up in Sandusky, Ohio, and they had the Nutcrackers in their small village, and it drew people from all over. And it's just a magical thing when they have the lights above it, and it's just something to behold. But they agreed to only bring them to Alpharetta in the state of Georgia, and so I'd like to see as many Nutcrackers as we can get. I don't care if we get up to 200 of them. It would just be that much more magical, and we'd fill our hotel rooms, we'd fill our businesses every day. The restaurants would be packed.
People are nuts for Nutcrackers.
They're nuts for Nutcrackers in a very good way.
So
yeah.
I would love to get a Grinch Nutcracker. So anybody else that's looking to co-sponsor, please let me know. And that's the one that I'd like to get. Which one would you?
So Jason will donate at least 500 toward the Nutcracker.
That's right.
I think you just said, didn't you? And
what would be the one that you would pick?
I haven't really thought about that because I'm not partial to any. I think it's neat to get Nutcrackers that will attract children. So I wouldn't mind replicating, whatever the newest childlike phase is or whatever. I don't care. I think it'd be cool to have a Leonardo da Vinci Nutcracker. And just fun, different sorts of Nutcrackers. But that's the beauty of it. Each business can decide what their Nutcracker is.
I think you need to sponsor an entire one.
Yeah. So. You can get a basic one that they've already created. The family's already created for around $3,000. If you want a specialty one, it can go up to $5,000. So,
oh my goodness! So
it's for a custom 6-foot Nutcracker. It's the way to go.
So Donald, last thing I'd probably like to discuss is the performing arts centers.
Yes.
We have our amphitheater, and one that's always been discussed, at least my time on council, and is having one for a little bit more of a smaller venue.
Yeah.
Do you think there's still a need for that?
I do, and it all goes back to having local participation. Ameris Bank Amphitheater is a great thing, but it draws national touring groups and things like that, and we all love to go see that. But as far as a local theater location, that there's a lot of talk about how we can make that happen for as little dollars as we can. But I do think the sign of a healthy community, especially a healthy arts community, it has theaters, not just one, but many that can perform it, and it has venues. We've added a black box theater to the Arts Center, so that can accommodate smaller shows.
Very small, but at least it's something
Very
to
small,
have.
yeah. But dance recitals or performances, piano recitals, those kind of things that can easily accommodate those kind of events. But a local theater, and many of them, we have two that are interested. Actually, we have more that are interested as long as we have the facility and stuff. And there's ways we can that we can explore, looking at some of our facilities within parks and adapt them to a theater. That one thing that's being suggested right now is that we have a venue adapted that can accommodate an indoor theater as well as an exterior theater. And so that's
An
very much in
indoor
the
outdoor hybrid.
exactly
Yeah.
through just putting enough money to renovate it in a way that we can accommodate the construction changes and stuff. But we have the actual building now. We'd have to work on reprogramming some of the events to another area, but that's still very much in the kind of ideal phase and infancy. But that could be an exciting way to get it for as little money as possible.
It really probably would need to be done through a private-public partnership
I think so.
to get done.
Yeah.
But you think there's room for it in downtown?
Oh yeah. Oh
Good.
yeah. Especially if we can adapt an area that already has parking that also could accommodate that and other events. Yeah, I think there's very much, or downtown, maybe not in the core downtown, but just on the periphery. Yeah.
I think, well, and as far as performing arts is concerned, we're seeing that more and more with the Arts Center a little bit, because you're right. We have that black box theater, but it is fairly small, and they use it for having different events and exhibitions there, and that's great.
Right.
And then the outdoor concert series that's in behind City Hall,
Right.
that's been shown. So there is a demand
On our
for
east
it.
lawn. Yeah.
And would love to see that more explored, that we can have a bigger venue on there, because that to me is probably the one thing that's missing in the arts district of Alpharetta, which is downtown.
Yeah.
That I would love to see explored more.
Yeah. It's true. And the only drawback with that particular venue on our east lawn is that in the event of rain, it kind of messes up the show, when it rains that night. And some people don't mind that, but for the most part, it would be great to have a venue that we could easily adapt into an indoor.
And it works well for the outdoor concerts with
Oh, yeah.
minimal equipment, but then maybe to have more of a theater or truer performing arts where you can expand it even more, to have that AV equipment and a place to hold that,
Yeah.
and I do think it would be nice to expand on that more and find another venue for it.
Yeah.
So
That
and we saw it with Wire and Wood, that we could use multiple locations,
oh yeah.
and so it's fantastic to see, and I would love to see that area grow.
Yeah, and the way we've envisioned, even Wire and Wood, Avalon is now a part of it. As soon as North Point Mall gets some of the new features that are already approved and coming to North Point Mall, that whole North Point area will be able to sponsor some of the venues. So we can scatter these venues around the entire city and have citizens come from their neighborhoods to that. And so I see that also being an ever expanding event that's just going to draw people. But yeah, as you asked, what's the greatest new direction? What's the greatest need? And I think it's to continue to grow in these areas where we have very little representation and where we can touch more people. And the whole thing is, how does art affect people? And if you can have art that makes people love where they live, to me, it's an accomplishment. And as you continue to grow that and make it an even more desirable place for our citizens and newcomers, it's all the better.
So in wrapping up, as people want to get more involved in what's happening around arts,
Yeah.
who's the best person to contact? I definitely think you, but as far as an organization, what
Sure.
organization should they be looking at?
I would contact Arts Alpharetta here in the city. There's also Alpha Arts, which works in our Alpharetta immediately area, as well as the region, the North Atlanta region. And also contact Kim Zane. She is in charge of arts and cultural services for the city of Alpharetta, and her department under Morgan Rogers. It falls under the Parks and Rec department, as you know, since you're the liaison there. Contact her, and she can get anyone in touch with the various organizations, like the Alpharetta Symphony or the Alpharetta Chorus. We have some great organizations that a lot of people don't know about,
Yeah.
and I'm failing to name some of them. The theater group that's in the Presbyterian Church is
But you're doing a good job. So Kim Zane, and then contact you. What's the
yeah.
best way to contact you?
By cell or by email. It's all online with the city, and so either way.
Well, Donald, I definitely want to thank you for joining. I had a lot of fun. This was enjoyable.
It's been great. Thank you for exposing the arts to more people, and we appreciate it.
Well, and also sincerity. Thank you for what you do and making sure that it becomes part of a discussion, and that we've expanded on our arts program. And it's been pretty neat to see how it's evolved over the past 5 years or so recently. I know it's been a long road, but you've definitely seen the fruits of the labor.
Well, it's because of your support and everyone else's support that's making it happen. And so I appreciate all you've done to help support it as well.
Well, thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.
Don't forget to look for the North Fulton Service podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts and on YouTube. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the show. Follow me on Twitter at Jason Binder, and be sure to tune in every Thursday for a new episode. Thank you for listening.